All right.
It's called a daub, not a D-O-B.
A daub?
They call
I
it the
don't like
daub.
that.
Yeah, it's a daub,
It's stupid.
not D-O-B.
I fucking hate that.
Anyways.
I make my own rules. Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation. This is another one of our mini summer specials where we are going to be discussing different bookish topics that we see online or other things that just float around in our little pea brains that just don't align with regular books that we're reading from Book Talk. So if you'd like to see more content outside of the podcast, please follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We're also on Twitter. Doesn't get used very often, though, I don't think. And then, what else? I'm your co-host, Mariah. You can follow me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
And I'm Kristen. You can find me at KRXXTXN on all social media platforms.
Really
Awesome.
hope that this records properly. We've been having audio issues, so if anyone is knowledgeable on how to fix podcast audio issues or what platform you use, please let us know because that would be greatly appreciated. But in the meantime, we're gonna talk about
Our favorite
how do
corporation.
we want to word this? Jeffrey Bezos. Yeah, so we had seen a video. It was just like a meme sort of what do you call those, like when somebody's like having a conversation by themselves and like they're just
like
talking
a
about like
skit.
their experience. Yeah, like a little skit as an indie books worker seller.
We could put
somebody
it
who works at an
in.
indie bookstore.
Do you want me to because we have
We'll
it.
insert the video in here. I can overlay it, add it in, so you can get the full context of it.
Hold on. Let me find it and I'll put it in this document real quick so that we have it. I followed this girl on TikTok too that did it. You know, I sent it to you last night?
I think it was last night or maybe the day before. All my days have kind of blurred together, so I'm not entirely sure when you sent it. But it should at least be in our TikTok sent and received messages, I think.
Let me see. Just so we have it. You better respond to me before you lose your streak.
Hi. I will. I will as soon as I get my phone.
Okay, I saved it to my phone in case it gets taken down, which I doubt it will, but you never know. And then putting it here for us. There we go. Okay, it's in the Discord now, so whenever you want to add it to the document. Okay. Anyway, so I was just scrolling my For You page, and this creator I follow on TikTok, so I see a lot of her stuff. Lovey is her name. And I know she works at a bookstore, and like she just makes regular like book talk content. And she works at an indie books. I don't know where she works. She doesn't say. We're assuming that it's an indie bookstore, or it could be a Barnes and Noble for all we know, but it is a bookstore where if you skip through the video or whatever, it basically talks about how customers come in all the time complaining about the prices of indie bookstore books because they're quarter of the price on Amazon, because Amazon intentionally sells their books at a loss to basically hopefully one day close down all of these bookstores so that they will be the monopoly on where people get their books.
Isn't very far off because they do own about half the market share on books, whereas Barnes and Nobles, for example, only has 1/5. So they're very ahead of the game. They sell their Kindles and e-readers for at market price because they don't want to, quote unquote, from Bald Man McGee, does not want to make money when people use our devices. Or what does he say?
He says, we want to make
We
money.
want
when people use our devices, not when the people buy our devices.
Yes. I read that backwards. I don't know why. So it's very intentional, like marketing, and from a business standpoint, like they're wiping the floor with everyone else. All these indie bookstores can't compete. If you've ever shopped at any other indie bookstores, you know that they are more expensive than Amazon. They don't usually price match, and so it puts consumers, working class people, in a really weird predicament where we don't get paid more than a means of subsistence, right? We only get paid enough to survive. So do
Paycheck
we
to
want
paycheck.
to put our dollar towards an indie bookseller who is likely going to help our local markets, like where you live in your community, or do you save the little extra money you have for your savings account and say in case something bad happens and buy off of Amazon, even though that's going to hurt those little bookstores, mom and pop shops locally.
Not to
It's
mention
a
people
very
that live in smaller communities, smaller towns don't even have the opportunity to go to an indie bookstore or something like that to go purchase a brand new book for that price. Like you just made a video today or yesterday or whatever about how you don't even have any local bookstores. Like your local bookstore is Barnes and Noble on half price books.
I think I get this every time I post the videos from Barnes and Noble where I share like my current affairs section in my Barnes and Noble where it's a bunch of like Ben Shapiro anti-communist shit and people are like, "Well, why don't you go shop at your local bookstore?" There is no other bookstore. Like there's no bookstore retailers. There's used bookstores. But again, those are hit and miss. You're not going to go in there and find something that just came out. Unfortunately, I wish it was the case. And then the library only has so much as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
only have Barnes and Noble, and the only other bookstore, I think there's one smaller one about 10 to 15 miles away, but they don't have a huge selection. But other than that, I have to drive at least 100 miles.
Yeah, I mean, at least where I live, I do have a lot of indie bookstores near me. And I've been to a couple, but a lot of the ones here are kind of more like specialized where they don't really even have like current affairs. Also living in like a like more red area, like a more like conservative area. The current like I've shown Mariah my current affairs like section here where I live and it doesn't even have it has the same things. Even if it is like technically a more diverse, but still a lot of people, if you're wanting to read actual communist literature and stuff like that, you have to find that online, unfortunately.
So some of the solutions I was given by somebody in the comment section was to do bookbinding. I don't know how that was supposed to fix my situation because it doesn't give me the opportunity to like look at books and like read the summary, but
You
apparently
have to already
bookbinding
know.
was the way to go and it
And
was
I
quote
think
unquote affordable.
I don't know. I mean, technically anything is affordable because you're doing it yourself versus like and that's one implying that you're already like the book that you want is like public information and things like that where a lot of marxist documents are like that, but not everybody wants to only read marxist work, you know. And something that's like me and Mariah, we don't only read left-wing policies, we read lots of fiction, which is what we'll be talking about in an episode that we're also recording today, and other things that are not just that. And bookbinding is not accessible if you want to read like the latest fiction book that came out. You can't just I mean, you can, but it's technically not ethical or supporting the author if you're wanting to support the author and other things like that, that it's technically not legal to do if you're wanting to bookbind certain things, you know?
So yeah, that was one of the more interesting comments I've gotten in response to like why I don't shop or like an alternative. It's quite frustrating, and I know it's not just maybe it's my generation who didn't entirely grow up with online shopping. So a lot of people do like to just go into the store and see what there is. I know every time I go in, I try to find There's the newest Vince Bevins who wrote the Jakarta Method book that I've been looking for a while, and I still have not been able to find it by Barnes& and Noble, but I don't know why I don't go and buy it off of, like, Verso or Pluto Press or
But
I
they're
don't know, I just feels weird not being able to see it in my hands and see how thick it is, kind of, like, be able to touch it, see
mhm,
where
how thick it
like, the
is.
actual content it is, because with nonfiction books, you wanna be able to see in the index, like, the source material, how much that's eating up of your book, kind of the overall format, if the print is the right size. I'm particular with the books that I buy, physically anymore, so
I think a lot of the time I am too, especially because like having I mean, me and Mariah both own Kindles, which are yes, Amazon products, so it's not like we're shaming you if you sit there and only buy your books off of Amazon. This is no way shaming anybody that wants to buy like the cheapest version because I mean, me and Mariah are very cheap people too. We don't have hundreds of dollars to spend each week on buying new books, but of course we love reading the newest things that come out. So there are different methods. I mean, Libby is a great option, but of course it's not accessible to everybody because then you have to wait weeks if you're not the first person to sign up for a new book that came out. You know, then you're going to be waiting weeks behind, getting
I
spoilers.
also saw, people who were saying that it's not ethical to have a bunch of different library cards for some reason. I don't know why.
What? The thing
I also
is
have to, like,
though,
find the video. I might have to edit this part out because it might be its own video in itself, but I did see it come up on my For You page of, like, why you shouldn't wanna have, like, 5 different Libby or book oh, what was it? Library
like
cards to different libraries in your area because 'cause you're, like, reserving too many books to take out of the market.
I don't think that's an ethical thing to say at all because I mean, there's so many librarians that I've seen online like recommend that there's like all of these ones that are in different states that you don't have to live in that state to get a library card and they say, "Hey, that's what you should do if you want to get more books." Because this is how these public libraries get funded. The more people that are checking out books, the more people that are reading books from their like stock is beneficial to them and gets them more money versus if you weren't going to do that. So,
We'll have to save that for another episode. I just thought about that. It just popped into my head.
well, because
But
I have some other librarians that could definitely counter that argument that you have. So we could definitely do another mini episode on that if people are interested in that specific topic. But again, this is nowhere shaming. I mean, me and Mariah have done our fair share of collecting books and maybe not the most ethical ways and things like that. I mean, um nobody is shaming you if you are buying from Amazon, but I think putting the blame onto the workers at these indie bookstores that one don't set the prices instead of maybe directing your anger towards like the publishers and things like that that set those prices that want the higher like profit margin and things like that or the actual business is where the issue lies because it's within the business and the owners and the publishers that set those prices, not the employees that work there.
yeah. So it's like there's like two ways of looking at it. Like if you are just like a little mom and pop shop, you're selling books. I don't think you should get mad at working class people who are poor and
Whenever
can't
they
afford to
can't.
buy books at your place to
Mm.
support like a local business, but also people who are in the community who don't have the money. Like you can't get mad at indie bookstores necessarily for trying to make a little bit of money off of like just selling books so that they can have their bookstore in your area so it's not completely monopolized,
Or
even though
like a
it
book
kind of
desert.
is.
Yeah. I mean, it already is, and that's the thing about like even like the United States government and like capitalism is that like it prevents like they say they prevent like monopolies happening and like the United States government will block like they block like a big Disney purchase I think a few years ago or Disney was trying to buy some company or something like that because they don't want them to have a monopoly where it's just like these companies can get so far where they just have a monopoly. I mean, look at we were just saying Amazon has half the market shares on books anyways, where just they have half of them, whereas already the majority, where I would argue that is a monopoly within itself, having half of the stock shares of books and all of books that people purchase. But the United States says that like capitalism doesn't let this happen and stuff like that when it very clearly does. And
I
it's
think it's interesting because so we've done online debates for a very long time ago. We used to do online debates. I
yeah.
do remember debating a certain being online who would say things along the lines of like, "Oh, the point of capitalism is not consolidation of industries; it's competition, so everyone has an equal chance." But is is that not the point of winning?
Mhm.
Is to be able to have it all of it? Like you usurp it, you collect it all, and then you own that whole market share, and then you're the most successful one. Like that is the point of capitalism,
Yeah.
is to be able to be on top, be number one. That's what competition is.
Yeah. Like, what's the point of having competition if it's not even actually to, like, inspire you to do better for consumers or do more for consumers, which we know Amazon is not doing more or doing better for the consumer. You get the same exact product if you go to buy the Twilight book from Amazon versus if you go to buy it at a bookstore. It's not like they're actually like creating like a new product or anything like that in that way that the competition is set. It's literally just we made our prices cheaper, so buy from us because
Are
they
we
can
dare
afford the loss.
suggesting that capitalism does not in fact
Breed
um
innovation?
breed innovation?
I would never say that. You know, I like
Never in a
having
million
30
years.
different toothpastes to choose from that all do the same thing. But I don't know if we really have anything else other to say than
I
that.
love the stare, the blank stare into the camera when we were just like, wait, did we say everything we needed to say? I think
Um,
so. I can't
well,
think
you
of
didn't
anything
talk
else.
about apparently that uh Amazon attempted brick and mortar stores in 2015.
I didn't know about this. I
I
didn't
didn't
hear
either.
anything about this. I was like freshly out of high school,
I would have
so
still been in high
I
school,
was
so
not reading. I think I was like just getting into college because I took a year off. Um,
I would have
but
been a
apparently they
sophomore,
tried.
I think, in high school.
We're dating ourselves here real quick. 2015. But this was also a time when books were not popular. I imagine if they were to try again and do kind of like the bookstores that they have with the grocery stores where you can just walk
They
out
closed
with the
those.
product and it just did they?
Yeah, because oh my god, do you want to know? Talk about exploitation of labor. Oh my god. Oh my god, I saw your little thumbs up. Um, but
Oh, does it do it?
apparently it did a second ago. But apparently they had to close these all down because the you know how like they had like they just walked out of the store or whatever, and you're like assuming that like they had something to scan like the RF codes whenever you walked out the store with the card or whatever. No. Apparently it was in I don't know if it was in like India, but it was in some type of like Southeast Asian country where they had people reviewing the video footage and that's how they charged them was they watched people shop on video and they had people doing that for hours a day.
I had no idea because
Yeah.
like the way it was advertised was like, oh, it has like a little chip or something in it.
No. Like they got exposed to that. I'll have to send you the article that I saw. And this was a while ago,
That's
but
so interesting. I did not hear anything about that. Thank you for listening to our mini episode or watching. You might be watching this on YouTube.
probably
I
not.
don't know where you're streaming this. I don't think very many people watch it on YouTube.
No.
If you have any suggestions for content that
Topics?
you'd like it to see in the mini series, shit, even other book talkers that you'd like to see in the mini series talking about things that aren't just head empty, thoughtless, talking about morally gray, resand or whatever the fuck their names are. We don't do that
Catherine?
here. So if you tag Grapey enough on our account, we'll get Grapey on here.
I would
That would be
die.
cool. We can talk
We're
about
1 degree of
sentient.
separation away from
We
Grapey.
are. We are so close.
One
We need
degree
one
away.
good sentient object romance novel, and
Mhm.
we're gonna win her over.
Mariah reads all those too and loves them. Favorite
Please.
books. 10 out of 10. 5 stars. Okay, but I guess that's it.
Alrighty. Thank you for listening.